Okay, so our wonderful student, Real Winslet fan, has a great question about counting, and that question is, I can't count and play at the same time. Any tips? Only a one track in my brain. So obviously you know probably what I'm going to say. First of all, go slow, right? That's probably the number one thing that I tell piano students to do to help out. You also want to simplify it. So let's take a look here, maybe an example like the Moonlight Sonata that I was playing earlier for everybody here in the live stream. Now, obviously, it's in cut time. If you want to simplify that, you can count it in four. It'll sound like it's going a little bit slower. But what you can do is you can either, it's up to you. You can either subdivide each beat, meaning you're splitting the beats up into its separate parts. So if you had eighth notes, you would count those as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. But at the very least, and actually I recommend this when you're first starting to play and count at the same time, is just count the beat and make sure that whatever the first note is of that beat, that you're hitting it on the beat. And most of the other notes will fall into place rhythmic-wise. Now, if you run into a little bit of trouble, you might have to count out every individual rhythm. So if I'm starting this out, this Moonlight Sonata, I know that I have this triplet pattern, right? You count that as 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. But that's not necessarily that necessary. What you really need to do is you need to just count 1, 2, 3, 4. And I know that each time I hit that G sharp, that's on one of the numbered beats. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that simplified it. I could have counted all the triplets and things in between, but just at least making sure that you're hitting the right notes. If a note is on the beat, that you're really hitting it on the beat that it's supposed to be hit on. Another thing besides going slow is that you might want to actually learn the notes of the piece first before you start to count along with your playing, because if you're learning to read something for the very first time, say there's a lot of sharps and flats and things that you are not used to at all, well, then you're not really going to realistically be able to count out loud and play at the same time. The counting, takes a little bit of brain power in and of itself, so you really need to have the notes fairly down before you start counting out loud. But on the other hand of it, you don't want to be learning a piece for months and months and months and not be counting out loud while you're playing. And you can either count out loud or in your head, but I prefer, and actually every teacher I've ever had prefers, that you count out loud until you really have counting and playing mastered at the same time. This will force you to keep counting, because what will happen is, say I'm counting this in my head, or say I start out loud, 1, 2, 3, and then I just stop, right? Because I feel like I'm getting it. I feel like I'm getting the beats right on there. Well, what'll happen is you'll get far along, and then, I'm at the end of this line already, and I'm not counting anymore, even in my head. I'm really just focusing on the notes. So it's very easy, if you're not counting out loud, to eventually just start not counting at all. And then you're back to square one of where you started. So just to kind of sum up what I said, you want to go slow. I recommend you probably want to learn the notes first. The main thing is that you're hitting the notes that fall on a beat, 1, 2, 3, or 4 in this case, on those beats. And then if you want to, you can count every individual rhythm, but that's going to be an extra level of things to think about. And then you can look at it in a couple other ways. I just want to bring up one example here. So I was talking about like how in this measure right here, we have, this chord down here. We have B sharp, G sharp, B sharp, and then it's actually just the middle measure right there, and the G sharp's on the outside. You see how you're counting the triplets, or you're playing the triplets, 1, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, and then you have this rhythm right here where you have a G sharp, and then a G sharp right after. Well, instead of counting like the dotted eighth, 16th, and the triplet at the same time, which is very, very hard to do, by the way, just count the triplet, or count the beat rather, 4. And then you can just tell that the G sharp right here is snuck in right after that F sharp. So there's no need to count out every individual rhythm, so long as you kind of know how they line up with each beat. So those were the suggestions I had for counting and playing at the same time. And of course, when I post this video, I'm going to post some other links that you can click on to learn even more about counting when you're playing the piano. Great question. I love that one. That was good. Barbara says, I would cut it into 12. You can do that. The only problem is that once you start getting past 9, or 10 rather, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It takes a long time to say 11 and 12. I mean, you can do that if you want to. But in my head, it's just better to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then get the triplets automatic. Okay, we'll take... Okay, I read that one already. Felt like swimsuit weather in Phoenix today. Oh, I am so jealous, Carol. Very jealous indeed. It was almost swimsuit weather last Friday. There was one day we had a few days ago where it was really warm. I think that was Thursday or Friday, where it was really warm. It was like almost 70. It was like 65 or something. And then the next day, it was freezing again. So it's really odd. Got an intermediate jazz music sheet a couple weeks ago rather. I'm doing good. All right, glad to hear it, Salvador. Rich says there are no shortcuts when playing. You have to do various things at once while playing piano. The best way to do it is to play songs at your level if the sheet music is too difficult. I agree. Let me take a look at Real Winslet Fans' comment because I missed it. Oh, no, I got that. Okay. Slow, always. Yeah, right. So Claire de Lune is definitely a beautiful song. I don't know the whole thing. So if you were like, oh, wow, he's actually going to play it. I don't have it memorized. I could play the first page looking at it, perhaps. Let's see. Yeah, Claire de Lune is a quite, especially that second page, like it has this flowing kind of section. That section is pretty hard, actually. Let's see. Hi, is there a specific method to figuring out time signatures by ear? This is a wonderful question. I wish I might have to play along. Yeah, let me think about this, because I'm a little leery on playing any kind of recording, because it might be copyrighted, but I can probably play and kind of explain it. So let me think about how to explain this right, and then we'll go from there. Hey, Mamba's back again from San Francisco. Welcome, Mamba. Okay, our student Tony has a great question for us. Tony asks, hi, is there a specific method to figuring out time signatures by ear? Well, I don't know if it's like a method so much as it is just try to count along, or try to really start by tapping your hand along with the beat of the song. A lot of people can do that already. It doesn't take training to do that. And then see as you're playing if the notes fit into either a duplet pattern. So duplet just means it's divisible by 2, basically. So that can be 2-4. That can be 4-4. It's often very hard to hear the difference between those two because it's very subtle. 3/4 is a triplet kind of meter. Yeah, duplet and triplet. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, that kind of thing. So you really have to listen to the music, and I would start out by tapping your hand, and then try to think about what number really fits in there. So just using the Moonlight Sonata as an example. You know, if I'm clapping my hand along with this is hard to do at the same time while I'm doing this, but it's 1 bump. You know, if I'm tapping my foot at the same time, if you can see that on the camera there, the camera angle there. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. See, I just started by hitting, you know, obviously you tap your foot in this case, tapping my foot on each beat, and then just try and say, does that fit with 3 or 4? And if it fits with 4, it's either in 2/4 or 4/4. It's something divisible by 2. So let me see if this makes sense to count it in 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. You see how when I got to that second measure, when I was counting it in 3, that I actually hit it on beat 2. So that doesn't really make sense, because a lot of times in pieces, the main chord of the measure will usually hit on beat 1, unless you're talking about jazz or something like that when you're talking about syncopation. So you just want to clap along with the piece, and then in your head, see if it fits with a 2, you know, counting it a 1, 2, or even 1, 2, 3, 4, or in 3 instead. So that's what I recommend you do. Things like counting something that's in 7/8, like Money from Pink Floyd. Bum ba da dum bum ba dum ba dum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Bum bum. Oh, it might even be an 8, but I think it's in 7. Bum ba da dum bum ba dum ba dum. Yeah, so that's in 7. That one's a little bit more difficult to get down. I recommend maybe just listening through some very common pieces to see if you can figure out the time signature. Or on the radio, you're listening on the radio, see if you can, while you're listening to it, tap along with it and see if it fits into a duple, which is divisible by 2, or a triplet, which would be something like 3/4. And then when you get home from listening to the radio or wherever you're at, look it up on the internet. Say, you know, is this Taylor Swift song? Is this in 3/4 or is this in 4/4? And then you can use that to double check. So that's what I recommend in that case. Okay, we have another great question from Winslet Fan, and that is, any tips on swing? I have some pieces that have swing, and then the comment that you can't really see below it is, I think I have it, but I'm quite unscientific about it. All right, let's take a look here and see if I can demystify this for you. So as you probably know, if you've been playing around with swing before, swing is all about turning even rhythms, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and it's very, very even. But what you're going to do with swing is you're going to make them uneven, and it's very common to make the first eighth note longer and then the second eighth note shorter. So instead of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and it's kind of weird to count it out loud. I'm used to playing it on the piano. So if I'm playing like the B flat blues scale, right, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, in swing, it's going to be counted as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and 1 and 2 and 3. So that's basically the very basic concept behind swing. You can actually increase or decrease the swing by increasing the amount of the first note and decreasing the amount of the second note. So you can go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, or you can go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and something like that. So that's just the very basic general, explanation of swing. Let me bring up something here, see if I can explain it a bit better for you. So give me a second. Okay, hold on a second. Looking for like something I can show you on paper. Yeah, this isn't so bad. Yeah, I don't like that. I was almost going to use something here. Yeah, this actually isn't bad. I like this. Okay, so here we have an example of a swing rhythm. So like I said before, you're basically taking an eighth note pattern, you're increasing the value of the first part and then decreasing the value of the second part. A lot of times what this will turn it into is a dotted eighth 16th rhythm, which has a natural kind of swing to it. Bum, ba, bum. So the rhythm here would be counted as 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, or a 1, 2, a 3, 4, a 1, 2, a 3, 4, a 1. Whereas if it was just even eighth notes, 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, a 3, 4, a 1. Just like that. So you're lengthening the first one, shortening the second one. When I took lessons for 1 to 1.5 years when I was much younger, I never learned chords. I just suffered through playing notes. I bought the books you recommended. They help. Thank you very much, Carol. I'm glad you are getting something out of those. Okay, Adria says... Okay, Adria asks, great question. When it comes to rhythm, I just don't get it at all. It just makes no sense to me. Would like to understand it better. Let me give you a very basic rundown. I mean, Rich is right. I do have some beginner's lessons that can help you out, which I will link you to here in a minute. I actually have the perfect lesson in mind. But let me kind of give you a basic explanation about how a rhythm works. So just give me a second here. What? Okay, there we go. Okay, Adria, as you're probably aware, music is broken up into these things called measures, which are these boxes, right? So you got one here, and they're all broken up by these, bar lines right here. Here's measure 2. So really, you can think of music as boxes, right? And you can fit notes in a box, but you can only fit a certain amount of notes in each box. And that's actually what your time signature right here is for. The time signature, most importantly, the top number, tells you how many beats can fit in each of these boxes. So you can fit no more than 4 beats in each box in this case, because that's what the top number signifies. The bottom number, I wouldn't worry about too much right now if you're just starting to understand rhythm. The bottom number tells you that a quarter note gets 1 beat. So remember that a quarter note gets 1, half note gets 2, dotted half gets 3, and whole note gets 4. So it's not 4 notes in each measure, it's 4 beats. So if you have a half note already, right, you can't have a dotted half note after that, because that total would equal 5. So they have to equal 4. They can't be less than 4 either, unless it's a pickup measure. There's a couple of instances where it won't add up, but for 99% of the time, it'll add up to 4. So let's kind of practice fitting some notes into these boxes called measures. So let's see, we can have a number of combinations of notes, but we can obviously first have 4 quarter notes, right? Because a quarter note gets 1 beat, And there's 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't fit any more notes into this measure. I mean, technically let me do it, but watch what happens. The measure turns red, so that's the staff pad's way, the program's way of letting me know that, oops, I have too many beats in that measure. That's not supposed to work. So you can't have any more, you can't have any less than what that top number of the time signature tells you. So that's the very basics about rhythm. Music's broken up into measures, and then in each measure you can fit a certain number of beats. And that's really all you need to understand about rhythm. I mean, it's a little bit more complicated than that. Let's do another example, though, in this box. So we still have 4, 4 from before. Say we have a dotted half note, right? That was worth 3. And then, so you can ask yourself, well, how are we going to complete this measure? What can we fit in here to complete it? Well, a quarter note, right? Because 3 plus 1 is 4. And then how about in the next measure, we need another one. How about I draw a whole note? Now the question is, do I need any other notes to complete that measure? And the answer is no, because a whole note in and of itself gets 4. So think about rhythm in terms of fitting notes into boxes, which are these measures, each one. You can't have any more, you can't have any less. It has to be that number above. And I would start with that. If you can understand that, you have the very basics of rhythm down. Of course, there's different time signatures, different numbers here. Like say you had then, instead of 4, 4, you have 3, 4. Well, now you can only fit three beats in each measure. So say you have, So say you have, I don't know, like a half note, right? Drew a quarter note, so we're going to stick with that. So you got to ask yourself, how am I going to complete this measure? Well, a half note makes perfect sense since a half note's worth 2. 2 plus 1 equals 3. That's the most important thing. All right, to continue the explanation, I'm actually going to link you to a video that I made about this perfect thing. I don't remember exactly what it's called. I think it's your first rhythm lesson or something, but I'll link you to it so you know how to find it, no problem. So give me a second, everybody. It's actually just called the B-flat blues scale, because blues scale is a specific type of scale. And what you do, if you want to play this specific type of scale, is you want to play B-flat, D-flat, E-flat. So you have these 3 black keys, and then you have these 2 white keys, E and F. So far we have this. And then you end with A-flat, B-flat. Just like that. And if you want to get technical, it's if you know about chord progressions and scale degrees, what note of the scale it is, based on the major scale. You have your root or your tonic, that's just unchanged. And then what you do is you have what's called a minor third. So you got 3 notes in the major scale, you go down 1, so the minor third. Then you have the 4th note of the major scale. Then you're going to raise that up a half step to have what we call either an augmented 4th, I guess, in this case. And then you have the 5th note of the scale. You have flat 7, and then back to a root if you are music theory inclined and you want to know. But it's these 3 black keys, these 2 white keys, and then those 2 black keys. What instrument are you using? It sounds great. Thank you very much. I am using a Roland RD 700 SX that I got for my graduation present from graduating high school in 2006. I can't believe it. This thing is, for being 12 years old, this thing is in amazing shape. It's a little dusty. I actually have to go and wipe it down a bit. But other than the dust, like the keys still feel really nice. There's nothing like wrong with it. There's no broken keys or anything. There's nothing that sticks. There's no sticky keys, which, if you have a piano for 12 years, there's probably going to be a sticky key or something. Something's going to be wrong with it. It's at least going to be out of tune. And of course, it's in perfect tune because it's an electronic instrument. So the Roland RD series, I highly, highly recommend. For sure. Actually, if you want to check it out, I believe if you check out in the description, I have a recommended keyboards and books link that you can go to where I have an Amazon store, so you can check that out there. I think I have the keyboard listed in there. I might not. I might have to go through and do that. Oh, Linda. And actually, first of all, Rich, thank you for helping out Adria with her question. Linda, thank you so much for the super chat. Same with you, Carol. It really means the world to me, your support. So thank you very much. Tonight's lesson was brought to you by Linda and Carol. So thank you so much. Let's see, Adria, when you practice, use the metronome. It'll help you understand rhythm. I agree with you, Rich, but I recommend that, Adria, you just get the very basics of rhythm first. So if you understood my explanation, then go for the metronome. If you're still kind of understanding how long each note value is and things like that, you don't want to do the metronome yet because it will frustrate you in the beginning. But once you get going, yeah, metronome's a good tool for that. Hey, Caleb. How you doing, Caleb? So beats and a measure is what makes up rhythm. Pretty much. Pretty much. I mean, there is a little bit more to it than that, but I wouldn't worry about that for now. If you're just starting out, you just need to know about 4/4 time signature, 3/4, and 2/4. And by the way, that brings me to the next question here by Nolanson. How does it work with time signature 6/8? Can I draw that too? Yeah, I can do that, sure. 6/8's a little bit different of a beast. First of all, like I mentioned before, if the top number is 6, oh, that's not the right time signature, that's 5/4. If the top number is a 6, right, we're going to now have 6 beats in each measure. There we go. Right? That part's easy to understand. So now instead of 4 in each box, each measure, we can fit 6. Pretty easy to understand. However, there's now an 8 written on the bottom. So whenever you're thinking about the bottom numbers of each of these key signatures, what I would do is, so say we have 4/4 right here, and then we have 6/8 right here. Right? Yeah, I think we can see that. Okay, so we have 4/4 and then 6/8 right there. So you're trying to figure out what the bottom number means. Well, what you want to do is just transform the top number into a 1, just for this example. You know, obviously you'll want to pay attention to the 4/4, and then change this into a 1. And this is what this tells you. So if the bottom number is a 4, that's a quarter, right? 1/4, other way of saying that is a quarter. So that's a quarter note. And that tells you which note gets 1 beat. So a quarter note gets 1 beat. And we're probably used to that by now. Now, if it's an 8, right, it's actually 1/8. So now the 8th note is going to get 1 beat instead. So since we have an 8 right here, the 8th note gets 1 beat. Now, what does that mean for all the other beats? Well, how many beats did an 8th note take up before? It's half a beat, right? Not very long, just, quick half of a beat. Well, now, if that's worth 1 now, we've actually doubled the amount all note values have. So now a quarter note is worth 2. A dotted quarter, which was worth 1.5 before, is now worth 3. You have a dotted half note, which before was worth what? Is worth 3. But now it's doubled, so it's going to be 6. So all note values are doubled, and this is the thing that gets a lot of students in the beginning. So if we have a quarter note here, right, how many beats does that take up? 1? No, incorrect. Before it took up 1. Now it takes up 2. So you're actually going to play the piano and count 1, 2. And then let's say we have an 8th note after that. Well, how many beats does that take up? Half of a beat? No, it takes up 1 beat now. So far we have 1, 2, 3, and that's how you'll count that. Now we need the other half of the measure. So we have another a quarter note here. I almost called it a half note. Another quarter note. That's not worth another 2. So that's going to be beats 4 and 5. And then beat 6, the last one, is going to be right here. I can't fit any more than that because the 6 limits us from going any further. So just kind of write out this rhythm here. We have beats 1 and 2. We got 3, and then 4, 5, 6, right? So you got quarters worth 2 beats. This is worth 1. This is worth 2. This is worth 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a very basic rundown of 6/8. Say I had a dotted half note. So the question is, how many more beats can I fit in this measure? And the answer is a lot, right? No, that isn't the answer. The answer is none, because a dotted half note now gets 6. It got 3 before in 4/4, But remember, it's doubled. So it's going to take up all 6 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now the question is, how many eighth notes can you fit in a measure of 6/8? Well, let's take a look, right? So let's maybe beam these across. And we can actually fit 6 eighth notes in each one. It makes sense because eighth note now gets 1 beat. You have 6 of them, and that takes up the entire measure. So it's a very introduction to 6/8. I actually do have a lesson on 6/8. Let me link you to that so you can better understand. So give me a second, everybody. Let's see. Okay, there you go. A little bit off topic, but since you watch Dragon Ball, what do you think of the score, and have you played some of the songs? You're talking about the original Dragon Ball Z, or Dragon Ball Super. I like the music actually in all of them. I'm not really sure about... No, I like Dragon Ball's music. I just haven't watched it in such a long time. I don't remember what it's like. But I like it. The pieces are actually kind of hard to play on piano. Now, I'm sure you can find the scores online and read through them. But a lot of it, because it has to do with like how much action is going on, it's kind of hard to translate a lot of those into the piano. But I guess the original Dragon Ball theme, ba-da-dum-bum-ba-dum, ba-da-dum-bum-ba-dum, ba-ba-da-ba-ba-da. You could learn that, obviously, the main theme. I guess you could also learn ba-da-ba-ba-ba-da, ba-da-ba, ba-da-da-ba-da-ba-ba-da-da-da-da. You could learn that too, like that bass line of the Dragon Ball Z one. But the answer is no. I have actually not looked those up to play them on piano, but surely you could. Okay, hello, John. I did answer the 6/8 question here a minute ago, so if you missed it, just check out the recording once I post this video and check it out from there. I saw some double dotted notes the other day. I suspect that the piece was way beyond my skills for some time, but what's the deal? That's 1 plus a half plus a quarter. I don't mess with double dotted notes very often, to tell you the truth. Let me think. It's been a while since I played one of these. Yeah, so it would be... let me look this up because I don't want to tell you something stupid. I want to make sure you got the right thing. Let me write up double. I think you have it right, though. Okay, here's how it works. Okay, so here's the example of a double dotted half note, which, as you can see from the equation, equals 3.5 beats. So you think about this, right? If you take the dot away, this is the first part of the equation, you have a half note, and that's worth 2. That's easy to understand. Remember that every time you add a dot, you're adding half of the note's value back to itself. So with one dot, it's no problem because you have 2 plus half of 2, which is 1. So that's 3, right? But when you add on the second dot, it's half of that half again. So you got 2 plus half of 2, which is 1, plus half of 1. So 2 plus 1 is 3, plus half is 3.5. And I believe, let's try to figure out a dotted quarter note, right? A double dotted quarter note. So let's kind of think this out. So a quarter note is worth 1, right? A half or a dot added to that makes it 1.5 because you're adding 1 plus half of 1, which is 1.5. So now you have, now I'm getting confused just thinking about this. You have 1 plus a half of 1, which is 1.5, plus half of a half, which is a quarter. So it's going to be 1 3/4 beats. Is that right? Yeah, got it. Oh, I didn't even scroll down, but there it is. Yeah, so you have 1 plus half of 1. and then you're taking half of that half, which is a quarter. Remember that for you have to convert 1/2 to 4, which would be 2 over 4. So 2 over 4 plus 1 over 4 is 3 over 4. So if you haven't reached that part in your math class yet, because I know we do have some younger students here, you might not be able to figure this out, but that's how it works. Yeah, so the second dot adds half of the dot, basically, rather than the original value. Yeah, so that's right, Real Ones of the Fan. You got it. Let's see, Tim. I remember you saying dynamics are a relative, no absolute. Is that right? I seem to drive myself crazy wondering if I'm playing the right volume. Yeah, it is relative. I mean, now obviously, let me think about this. Yeah, it is relative. Because honestly, if you start the piece like this, and you need to go to pianissimo, it makes sense to go to that volume. But if you start another volume, I mean, it is relative, but I would say there's probably a range for each one. So you don't want to be playing pianissimo and be playing it like that, right? That's obviously way, way, way too loud. So you want to make sure they fit in a range. Let me put it this way. Each dynamic has a range to it, which means it's more fluid than anything. It's more, I don't know if relative is the word. I probably did use that word as well. But the answer, yeah, is that there is no absolute for that. So it's not like I can get out a measuring device and say, oh, forte is exactly 2.1 decibels, whatever. I don't know. Probably don't even know what I'm talking about here. But yeah, there is no absolute. Don't drive yourself crazy with it. Honestly, so long as your pianos are softer than your fortes and your pianissimos are very soft and softer than your pianos, then you're fine. Let's see. Adria says, thanks, Tim and Rich, for helping me out. You're very welcome. What's going on this side? I don't know, Miles. What we're doing right now is I'm answering questions related to rhythm. So if you have any, let me know. If not, you can sit back, relax, and learn some if you want. Linda, does the key action noise bother anyone else besides me? Like this? I don't know if you can hear it on my... Actually, you might be able to hear it on the microphone, actually. It doesn't bother me, but I could understand how it could. You know what does bother me is when a student's nails, or even my own nails, are too long. Hear that? You probably do because it's coming up on the volume bar. That click does bother me. Like nails on the keyboard. The action doesn't really bother me so much. I know what you're talking about, though. And that's just the sound of the key going down and going up. But it doesn't bother me as much. Yeah, so if you have a cheap keyboard with really hollow actually, a lot of very cheap keyboards have hollow plastic keys, and they do sound awful. They have a very hollow, echoey sound, and I don't like that at all. But a real piano, or something like this Roland here, RD700, the keys are very solid. I still definitely hear, like if I turned off the piano, I would definitely hear it, like this thumpy kind of sound. That doesn't bother me that much. I actually do wear headphones with my keyboard, so that kind of does help mute the sound from the actual keys, but I can still hear it. It doesn't bother me too much. Oh, you have a Yamaha CLP 635 3000. I can hear this keys thump. Wow. Okay, so the thumping of the keys. So you'll still have a thumping of the keys. You won't have that hollow plastic sound, but you'll still, like my keyboard has it. You can probably even hear it. Real Wences fan says, I swear my nails have started growing 3 times as fast since I started learning piano. Probably not true, but it could be, that kind of, it always seems like whatever you're trying to do, your body's working against you somehow. So I could definitely see that. I'm sure they're not growing that much faster unless you're eating something different or something like that. Nolan Sin says thanks, and thanks for the videos. By the way, you're very welcome. I played for 2 weeks, and it helped me so much starting out. Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate that. I'm really glad you're finding my videos useful. All right, so we're landing into the next for the last. Oh, Rich has a major tip for the class, which I'll read here in a second. All right, so we're entering in the last 10 minutes, so feel free to let me know any last-minute comments or tips that you have for the class. If you want to help support our classroom here on YouTube and all over the internet, you're like, I really like these lessons. I'm getting a lot out of them, and I want to make sure they're here for a long time to come. And I want to make sure that they come into 2018 stronger, better, smarter and faster than ever, which doesn't really make any sense, but it's just but better than ever. There's a couple of ways that you can help contribute towards the channel. One of them is a super chat. So if you've been here a while, you probably know what that is. You go to the bottom of the chat, you click super chat, and you can donate a couple of dollars. But I heard that doesn't work for a lot of people. So a good alternative to that is patreon.com/lessons on the web. I do believe I have it. I might have actually forgotten it. I do believe I have it in the description. If I don't already, I will have it there when I post the recording to this video. Actually, my favorite way of contributing to the channel is by going to my website, pianolessonsontheweb.com. Again, there will be a link for you, and there I have over 20 courses I've designed to help you learn a lot more about piano and music. So not only do I get something out of it, but you get something out of it too. So if you really want to take things to that next level, I highly recommend you go there and check those out. But, if you don't have any money, that's totally cool. You just being here and being a part of our classroom means the world to me, and it really does help contribute. Whether you're here in the live streams or you're watching the recording of this, whether you help leave comments, which does really help, by the way, or you just kind of like to sit back, relax, and learn, your viewership and your studentship, I guess you could say, is very, very much appreciated. So I want to take the time and thank you for that. That kind of support is also very, very valuable. Okay, let's take a look here. I want to read Rich's. Actually, I'm going to link you to my website. So there's a link to my website. Let me read Rich's tip. I'm going to answer Paris's question real quick. What is a blues scale exactly? Is it a type of scale that's majorly used in jazz music? The answer is yes. That is very true. Or blues music as well. I will make a lesson. I haven't made any lessons on the blues scale itself. So I probably will make a lesson going into that in more detail. Astonishing Arch says, this is more related to playing with the metronome, but I was wondering how you would play pieces like Prelude No. 1 by Bach. That's really simple to play, but are played fast with a metronome. Okay, wait. I was wondering how you would play pieces like Prelude No. 1 by Bach that are really simple to play. I got you. First, what I would do is I would look up what tempo to use for Prelude No. 1 for Bach, because a lot of these pieces have like a recommended tempo or a range. It's not like an exact thing. Let's see, Bach Prelude 1. There you go. And make sure you write C major because it might not know. Okay, at least here on this website, you're going to want to double check here, but it looks like the recommended BPM is 95. So what you want to do is you want to find a metronome. Let's see. Oh, you won't be able to hear it because of the way I have this set up. But hey, there's one on Google. You just put in, I don't know, can you click here and do it? No, you got to use the scroll bar, but I think you can hit the minus button here. And then you click play. And then you can't hear it, but it's giving you a click for each one. And I believe the tempo here would be like... And I would say that's pretty close to the tempo it should be played at. But that's what I recommend you do. Look up the recommended tempo for it. Type that tempo into a metronome. They have one on Google, actually. And then play it along with that. It might seem a little fast to you, in which case you can bump it down a few points. Like I said, a lot of these are a recommended range. So maybe from 90 to 100 would work well. All right, we got Rich here who has his tip for all of us that I really want to get to. We got Rich says, when playing scales, cross your thumb under your hand if you play the second finger. Makes crossing a lot easier and lets you play a lot more fluid and faster. Makes sense to have the thumb ready to play instead of waiting to the very last second. That's a great idea. Let me show everybody what I think Rich is talking about anyway. So when you start learning your scales, right? So say we have C scale. To play them up and down fluidly, you need to use a specific fingering. And a lot of it has to do with finger crossings at the right time. Well, the C major scale, once you get up to this third note with finger 3, then you cross under to hit your thumb. You're going to kind of pivot there to hit your thumb there, and then you can finish out the rest of your scale with your fingers. Well, what Rich is saying is that instead of waiting until you get here to this third note and then pivot under, which can kind of make it sound a little clunky. I can do it actually kind of fine, but I've been playing scales for a long time. What he's recommending is that as soon as you hit this second note, you have your thumb tucked underneath. So you're going to hit this third note, and then it's already in place. I like that. I think that would work out well for a lot of people. So you hit the second note, boom, your thumb's underneath already. I mean, you still have one more note to go, and then your hand lines up perfectly. That's a really good tip. Thank you very much for that, Rich. I appreciate that contribution to our amazing classroom. Okay, my piano teacher taught me that method day one. It's second nature now. You're very awesome. Fireflower says, thanks a lot, Tim. You're very welcome. Gotta go. I'm almost at my stop. Okay, I haven't contributed much today, but that's all right. I enjoy listening to the discussion. Like I said, Fireflower, even if just being here really, really helps, and I really appreciate it. So you have a great week, and I'll talk to you again on Friday, of course. Karen, I have to retain my brain. That's very true. Have a good one, everyone. You're very welcome, Fireflower, or, have a good one yourself. Thank you, Rich, says Carol. I am a little choppy, so I will go slow and give it a try. Any help is appreciated. All right, Karen says, probably why Carl taught me that way from the outset. All right, nice. Thanks, Tim. Really does help, Carol. You're very welcome, Astonishing, by the way. It really does help, Carol. I was taught to practice the first couple of notes of scale first, then add the third, and so on and so forth. Forms the habit, if you will. Very good. So, and actually, you know what? Forming a good habit. Let me see what we got here. Sorry about this. Forming good habits is very, very important in not only music, but life in general. Because obviously you can form bad habits and they catch up to you at some point. Forming good habits kind of give you little rewards as you go along. So, like piano with life or anything, forming good habits is a plus. Paris says, what a coincidence. I'm learning to play Prelude in C major. I've learned the first 3 measures. Very nice. That's a very good beginners-ish song to learn. I don't recommend you learn it if you're like just starting out in the first week or so, but yeah, you can learn that one fairly early on, and it's a very beautiful piece and sounds very, very nice. Highly recommended. All right, everybody, I think I am going to bounce out of here for tonight. I'm sorry if I didn't get to anybody's question or I missed you. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. We had a great long list of people like Paris, Karen, Astonishing. We got Carol was here. Rich, of course, was here. He gave a wonderful tip here. Fireflower, of course. Nolan Sin, who is new here. Thank you very much for coming by. You're welcome back anytime. Let's see. Real Winslet fan. We got Miles. Thank you very much. Adria, of course. How could I forget about Adria? And John and just about anybody else. Janice. Yeah, so thanks everybody for coming out. I really appreciate it. We are going to be meeting again on Friday. Let me show you what we're doing on Friday really quick before we go, because I want to make sure everybody knows what we're doing. So you go to pianolessonsontheweb.com. I linked you there earlier, and you click on community. This page is just for us, for our classroom here on YouTube. Doing it live, and you can scroll down and see the calendar of what we're meeting, when we're meeting, and when. I can't talk today. So Friday we're going to be talking about, I'm going to give you an introduction to chord substitutions on piano, and don't let that worry you if you don't know what that means. That's just basically taking some chords out and replacing them with other chords. So I'm going to show you the generals on how to do that, and then of course I'm going to be answering your questions about finger exercises the following week. And if you want to attend one of these, just click on the title. You click link to stream, or the link there, and then there's like a little set reminder button that pops up, and you click set reminder, and then hopefully YouTube will do its job and letting you know. And I've been doing a lot better actually letting people know on Facebook when we're meeting, facebook.com/lessons on the web. If you're interested there, you'll get extra updates. You'll actually get links to articles that we put out and all sorts of things. All right, thank you very much, everybody. Carol says, thank you, Tim. I learn something every time. Thank you very much. Let's see, a little off topic, says Adria. It may turn into a part 2 question, 1 of 2. I've been taking lessons for over 2 years and learning from Alfred Piano Prep course for the young beginner. Part 2 separate post. Okay. So if you don't have enough time to post, Adria, like leave it. Part 2. Here you go. Would that put me behind when I start lessons up again, and should maybe start thinking about getting lesson books for the adult beginner? I would say so. If you feel, especially if you feel like the, what is it? Alfred's Piano Prep. Yeah, if you feel like the prep course is too easy for you, then yeah, go ahead and try to get that adult lesson book. The adult beginner book actually isn't that difficult. Now, I don't know what your playing level is, but I've had children who are maybe from 10, it's a rare case, but maybe from 12 years old on, and they can handle that book for the most part. All right, you're very welcome, everybody. Have a great night, Karen, and everybody else. Has been a pleasure of mine, and have a great week, and I'll talk to you on Friday. So this has been Tim from Lessons on the Web. Thank you so much for being a part of our classroom, and I'll talk to you on Friday. So have a great week.